All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to today's LSA webinar. My name's Joe. I'm with the Local Search Association. And today's webinar is titled 5 Services Your Agency Must Provide in 2018. And will be brought to you by our guest presenters, Rev and Dwayne from Yext. During the webinar, feel free to type any questions you have. We'll try and get to as many of those as we can. And if we don't, you'll be able to track down our speakers afterward, or you can email us directly and we can connect you. So again, feel free to type those questions at any time and we'll get to them at the end. And that's it. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Over to you, Rev.
Hey, thanks, Joe. Super excited to be here today. If you've joined us, we're excited you took the time out of your day to be a part of this conversation. We are here today to talk about the 5 services that your agency must provide in 2018, just to confirm what you're seeing on the screen. I'm joined today by Dwayne Forrester. He is our VP of Industry Insights here at Yext. Dwayne used to work inside the search engine at Bing and maintains relationships there today. He's recognized as an expert in SEO, digital marketing, and he is also he builds and plays guitar at home. Hi, Dwayne.
Hey, Rev. It's exciting to be here with everybody today.
Yeah, we learned about Dwayne today that he does not like reverb on webinars, but he does on his guitars.
Yes.
So like I said, my name is Rev Ciancio. I'm the Director of Partner Marketing here at Yext. I'm a former agency owner twice and a former New York City bar owner. So I've been on the SMB side, I've been on the agency side, and now I'm on the SaaS side. One of the great things about my positions here at Yext is that I get to look into all kinds of agencies, from solopreneurs up to the biggest of the big, and I can see, what helps them grow and be successful. And so we've sort of taken a year's worth of knowledge and what we've learned about how the digital marketing agency world is working, what's happening on the web, and how agencies are growing, and we put this together into a presentation today that we're excited to showcase to you, called the 5 Services Your Agency Must Provide in 2018. So for those of you who are super busy and are not going to pay attention to the webinar, here's everything you need to know on one slide. This is a big reveal. So we're going to talk about these 5 things: digital knowledge management. We're going to talk about developing a plan for voice search. We're going to talk about schema markup. We're going to talk about how reputation management looks in 2018 and goal-based metrics. So, Dwayne, are you ready?
I am ready. Is the audience ready?
They're not going to be able to answer us, but we'll just assume that they are. People, buckle up. We're going to start here with digital knowledge management. So you're probably wondering what this is. It might sound obvious. It kind of is. Digital knowledge is essentially all the facts about your brand or your customer's brands, like their name, their address, their phone number, hours of operations, product services, all of that which lives online for customers to search. So it's not just the NAP, it's not the name, address, phone number, it's everything. It's, wheelchair accessibility, gluten-free menu, what credit cards you take, are you open on holidays? It's all the facts that live online about your brand. So what is digital knowledge management? It's going to be obvious. It's actually the process by which you source, manage, and make your digital knowledge available to customers in the moments that matter, i.e. search. So let's talk about how you can manage it. You basically have 4 choices. One is do nothing. I'm going to assume, Dwayne, correct me if you feel differently, that if you signed up for this webinar, you are not a do nothing person. So let's get into your first option. And that is what's called a manual update. Dwayne, how do we feel about manual updates?
Oh, this is not the way to go.
So we'll start with an option you're not going to want. So how do you control with a manual update? It means you're going to go to Google, you're going to go to Yelp, you're going to go to Bing, Foursquare, and the hundreds of other sites out there where the information about your customers' brands live. You're going to claim that page and you're going to update it. You're going to go from site to site and you're going to make sure that you type the exact same information in each one, because the search engines hate data inaccuracy, right? So you better take notes. You better put aside about 184 hours a month. That's the number I just made up for the sake of this webinar, to go and manually claim and manually update each of the publisher networks and intelligence services. Like Dwayne said, you're not going to want to do that, but you can, and it's cheap. Right. Second is something called a data aggregator. Now, these are out there. They kind of work, I guess. They're relatively inexpensive, but we call them hope and pray solutions. There's no guarantee that they'll update your data on all the publisher networks and intelligence services. The way it works is they feed your data through these aggregation systems, who then feed it to the publishers: Yellow Pages, Yelp, Bing, Facebook, Yahoo, Google, all of these sites, right? They then have to pay every time they upload the data to the publishers, so they do it as infrequently as possible to get the lowest price. Oftentimes, that can be even less than 3 times a year, right? There's also no guarantee that publisher will take the data. That's why we call it a hope and pray. If they do take the data, right, let's say you got lucky, let's say that they did put your name, address, and phone number of your customers up into all these publishers, there's actually no guarantee that will stay there. There's no lock. The round-robin way in which all the publishers find information, they can go right back to it. So there's no guarantee that the information stays there. And because they only update infrequently, let's say that you realize that your customer's business is going to be closed on Christmas Day and it's the week before Christmas Day. You want to update that so when customers are searching them, they get the right information. You can't wait until March 31st for that information to go live, right? So you're going to miss out in those moments that matter, right? On top of that, like I said, all that information can still go change. Anybody here ever checked into a location on Facebook and you get the pop-up where it asks for, hey, are these hours correct? Is this a burger joint? Do they have parking options? And you basically answer those. Well, almost all of the publisher networks will let anybody, and I literally mean anybody who's online, go and update information about businesses that they have no stake in, and they won't notify the business owner or you, the agency. So again, this solution kind of works. It's an option. We want to make sure you know about it. The last one, this is called match and lock technology, okay? It's a solution which guarantees a number of things. It's going to guarantee the data is not only going to go to the publisher, but it will not change, meaning it's going to match it and it's going to lock it. We like to be obvious around here sometimes. This is something that only Yext can provide you, and I don't want to turn this into a Yext commercial, but I'm just telling you it's an option. Yext has direct API access into all of these sites, into Google, Facebook, Yahoo, Bing, Foursquare, and about 90 more publishers. The idea is that if you put the information into the dashboard, it will guarantee to go to the publishers, and it will lock out anybody else's ability to update it, and in most cases will update in real time, right? So the idea being, like, let's say on December 21st, you know that your customer's business are going to be closed on Christmas Day and you forgot to update it. You can update it that day. Oftentimes it'll be published within, 1 hour up to 3 days. So those are your 3 options. You can manually update, you can data aggregate, or you can use a solution that has match and lock. But Dwayne, digital knowledge is not just about the knowledge. It's also a career form around this.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you, I'm super excited about this. Obviously, I've seen a lot of growth in this area, and let's just get right into it for folks. We've got an article on here from the Forbes Agency Council where this concept of digital knowledge management as a career, as a job role, is something that they say you need to focus on coming through 2018, and it's still a relatively new focus as jobs go. It's rapidly becoming one of the hottest opportunities, though. The main skills someone in this role is going to need to possess are things like being a good investigator, being able to uncover all of the sources of your data, the source, the truth source for data within your company. Negotiator, you're going to have to work with different groups within an organization who control different parts of this equation to actually get things done that you need. You have to be an excellent communicator. You have to be able to explain how this fits in with the program, what you're doing to expand within the company's control, and to get people on board. You have to be a great thinker. You have to be looking at what's coming next, thinking about what are the new technologies that are out there, things like voice search and AI and how that impacts customer behavior and therefore your business. And you have to be an excellent builder. You've got to build relationships inside your company. You've got to be able to build connectivity through content and systems with people, with consumers. This role, though, is very big. It has a very broad impact. It works across a lot of teams, and it's not just about attracting searchers or shares. So if you're thinking, oh, this is just a fancy name for an SEO, no, definitely not. This is all about ensuring a company's digital knowledge is developed and deployed in the best ways possible, both internally and externally, to serve the business. And that is a huge opportunity. And give an example here. Companies like School of Rock, FedEx, T-Mobile, and others have seen the value of tapping into the centralized source of digital knowledge truth and management. Folks like Gary Steele have self-identified and become the DKM, the digital knowledge manager for their business. By having that centralized understanding of all of your digital assets, you have in place a person who can help a business capitalize on opportunities and spot problems well in advance. And as we see the expertise develop here, we see it ramping up with more people, more businesses coming in, creating positions like this. Just not too long ago, a partner of ours reached out and said, do you have a job description? I want to hire this job. And so we helped craft a job description for it. That's available online freely now. And they actually have hired somebody in this role as their digital knowledge manager. So that's an incredible opportunity, which kind of brings us over to step number 2 in our 5-point plan that we're talking about today. And it's this idea of developing a plan for voice search. Now, it's becoming increasingly important that every business understand and have a plan to address the growth of voice-powered search. Consumers are using the interface more and more, and in every instance, search results are spoken out loud, whittled down to a single entity. To be chosen by the engines, to be the one result shared, takes a lot of work, and it's not really optional anymore. So, Red?
No, we even this just came out. According to a recent ComScore study, the smart speaker category has reached what they're calling critical adoption threshold. The study found that among U.S. households with Wi-Fi, probably most people on this call today, 11% of them owned a smart speaker as of October, and that's an increase from the 8.1% that happened just in June in only a couple of months. This is actually an article that came out only a few days ago on eMarketer. You can go look it up and read more about it. But basically, they're saying that consumers, people every day, are going to use voice search for everything, including shopping for Christmas, right?
And I think what's really, really impressive about this is those stats don't even take into consideration the Black Friday and Cyber Monday shopping. And we all know that the biggest selling object was the Amazon Echo. And so those stats, that 11%, that jump from 8% to 11%, it's more on the order of a jump from 8% to 13 or 14%, I think, because that's the reality of in-market objects right now. In fact, by 2020, we're going to have 50% of searches being done by voice search. And many of these intelligent agents, they're all powered by voice now or using that interface. And it's very important that these systems have the correct, accurate facts about your business. Because, Rev, you know what happens when this all comes together, right?
Oh, absolutely. Hey, Siri, I'd like a reservation for 2 people at 7 p.m. They have to have lasagna in the menu. They must have a 4-star rating. It's got to be within 2 miles of my house. I want a valet parker. And you know what I get? I get one answer, and it's spoken into my earballs. The House of Lasagna at 334 Lexington Avenue in New York is a top-rated restaurant for lasagna near you. Shall I confirm your reservation?
Yep. And this is the amazing thing. I mean, we've all had this moment where we look at somebody we're standing around with saying, hey, let's go out for a bite to eat. And you say, okay, great, where do you want to go? And the entire thing grinds to a halt at that moment because neither of you can think of where you want to go. And your voice assistant is actually going to solve that problem because they're going to come up with one answer that you know is good and trustworthy, and therefore you will go there. So now, if we look into this a little bit more, and we actually take a look at some strategy here, a voice strategy plan, we're going to call out 6 main things you can do to develop the dedicated voice plan. And these are things like, these are beyond like adopting a company-wide commitment to focus on it, of course, which is very powerful on its own in terms of getting things done. But you have to take actions to see the long-term success in this space. Consumer behavior is changing. The engines want trust signals to help them decide what things to rank at the top of the query or to populate in the answer box. And to be that answer box, featured snippet, position 0, call it what you want, means you're the result being spoken aloud during the voice search query. Now, step number 1, long-tail conversational targeting to this approach. You've got to do this because this is how people are asking their questions of the systems. So this is no longer where you go in and do keyword research and say, hey, the volume of queries is X. That's a starting point. What you have to do is go to the other end and look for conversational-looking queries, longer, long-tail conversational queries, so that you can understand their intent and the context within which this is being asked. On top of that, you've got to be able to do things like identify a customer journey. The days of shortcuts, way, way over, right? You've got to build out detailed answers to common and even uncommon questions related to the products and services you have. You have to sit down and run people, family, friends, focus groups, random businesses that or companies who will bring in groups of people, have them go through your website and collect every question, every moment where they fail to take the step you think is obvious. And you have to build out your approach around this. And that's where building those detailed answers comes in. Of course, we can't do this without step number 3, marking it up. You have to mark up your content. This is where things get geeky and deep in your website's code. Simple version is that all of these excellent experiences we enjoy across our devices are partly possible because the website took its time to identify relevant bits of their content. Rev would not have known about the lasagna at that location had that location not had all of their information about their website marked up. Now, it's not necessary that they're marking up their lasagna per se, but they do have to have all of the rest of their system identified and all of that data filled in. We're talking about a growing trust signal at the engines. Schema was launched when I was still at Bing. I was part of that team when it came out, and the team that I ran actually managed the schema.org website. And so there is definitely a plan to ramp trust on things like markup and schema.org in particular, because it's a point of truth that the engines partner and agree on. And that brings me to point number 4, clean up your house. You can't expect the engine to work miracles if you're hiding your content, if you make it difficult to discover, you got broken links lying around and everything else. Marking things up with schema is not a silver bullet. It doesn't excuse other problems. In fact, it can, if you get everything aligned, move you forward nicely because you now outpace your competition. Number 5, you got to be mobile friendly. Not even an option anymore. I mean, anybody who's been paying attention understands the scope of mobile today. It is our number 1 traffic driver. It is where everyone's consuming all of the hours, all of the time, all of the content, all of it. Mobile has it. If you're not mobile friendly today, you are fighting a losing battle and you are falling behind. And then finally, we've got secure. Now, secure might not seem a big deal, but this is something that the engines are backing, specifically calling out, saying that they think is important. And when the engine calls it out and says they think it's important, you can bet and you can be assured there are a number of reasons they're doing it. And it's not just to make them look good, to make them look like they're on the consumer's side. They're doing it because it holds inherent benefits. So aligning yourself with that means aligning yourself with the algorithms that are looking for reasons to trust websites. All right, that's our 6-point plan for the focus. Folks can review this when the recording comes out. What do we got up here next?
Oh, thanks, Dwayne. This is one of my favorites. Reputation Management 2.0. If I hear from one more person about how much they hate Yelp and how bad for business Yelp is, I'm just going to continue to write them off as a business. People who say things like that, whether it's Yelp or any other third-party review site, do not understand the power of Yelp or what reviews in general can do for business, okay? Having an online reputation management plan for reviews can have many positive effects for your customers, right? First of all, it shows new potential customers that the owner understands customer service and that they don't just think it happens at the location, but it also happens online. It happens before and after the customer engages in the transaction with you or your customer, right? But that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Let's get into some numbers. So it's been reported, right, that online reviews can have a huge impact on business and consumers. The impact can be positive or negative. For example, for every star a business gets in their rating, their sales revenue will increase from approximately 5 to 9%, right? At the same time, 22% of consumers will not purchase a product after reading just one negative review about it, right? So think about it. What would be the benefit to your agency if you could cause a 5 to 9% increase in the business for your customers? Likely they're going to continue to hire you month to month, year to year to help them transact and be more successful, right? But let's break this down. How does this work, okay? So in April of 2016, 2018, Google came out and said, look, we have 3 factors we look at when we're ranking for search, okay? Relevance, distance, and prominence, okay? Relevance is, how well a local listing matches what someone's searching for. So, hardware or pizza or, the word best, something like that. Distance is obvious. If you put in a geo filter like an address or a town or near me or a zip code, right? And the last one that they added in was what we're going to focus today is prominence. Now, prominence is how well known and highly rated a location is, right? So in terms of reputation management, let's dial in a little deeper on prominence, okay? What does it really mean? In a nutshell, it means recent positive ratings and reviews. So prominence is defined as a business's reputation, which includes review count and overall star rating. So what Google is saying is that it's literally ranking your customers' businesses in the local pack based on the quantity and the quality of the ratings and reviews of that business. So if you're not managing those reviews, you're risking that your customer business will not even show up in search, let alone forget about the whole customer service thing, right? Let's give you an example. So here are some results from Yelp. This is actually where I live in Hoboken. Not sure if you guys have been to Hoboken, but there's a lot of Italian heritage there and a lot of really good pizza. So when you're looking at this, would you rather go to a restaurant with a 4-star rating that hasn't had a new review post in more than a year, or a restaurant with a 4-star rating that has several reviews from last week? It's obvious you're going to go to the most recent one, okay? So pretend you did this search like I did where I live. Several results come up. All these restaurants have about the same stars, right? Pizza Joint A has 4 stars and 95 reviews. Pizza Joint B has 4 stars and 239 reviews. And Pizza Joint C, Frank, has 5 stars but only 10 reviews. Which one are you going to? Well, you're going to go to Johnny Pepperoni, right? The answer is obvious. So search engines work in the exact same way. More recent positive ratings and reviews means more customers are choosing to recommend one business over another, and therefore it's more pertinent, right? Let me put this in a different perspective. It's been reported that the half-life of a tweet can be as fast as 5 minutes, meaning once that tweet goes up, 5 minutes later, it's never seen again, right? And studies have shown that a post on Facebook has a life expectancy of around 5 hours. Ratings and reviews, location data, that's forever. Local search happens in real time, right? So what am I getting at here? As a guy who's worked on social media campaigns professionally, and I know a lot of agencies out there, this is a hot button item for them, like, hey, I'll hire you to do my social. I can tell you that reputation management can have a much stronger and more lasting effect than social media. This is the way forward for you as an agency, right? Let's go for one more example. Okay, which of these burgers would you rather eat? Would you rather have the one on the left or the one on the right? What do you think, Dwayne?
Oh, I gotta go with the right. Come on.
Okay. By the way, can you guys still see my screen?
Oh, yes.
Okay. You'd rather go for the one on the right. Okay, so here's a better question because it's a trick answer. This is actually from the same exact restaurant, right? How do you think the owner would react if I showed him these side by side? He'd probably freak out on a staff member for having a bad and inconsistent presentation, right? And he'd go ballistic. He'd go sky high. But I'll bet if I showed him this, right, the inaccuracy in his ratings and reviews, do you think he'd care about being inconsistent and having a bad presentation? He would probably brush me off and say that search is not important, that ratings and reviews don't matter. He relies on quality food, exceptional customer service, word of mouth. And hey, Dwayne, you know what word of mouth looks like in this day and age, right?
Oh, yeah.
It looks like this, a bunch of one-star reviews on Yelp, okay? What I'm trying to tell you here is if you want to be an agency that's ahead of the curve in 2018, you need to be working on reputation management for your customers. It is a stronger, more impactful, and important tactic than social media. It will ensure that your social media campaigns are even stronger by doing it. Okay, Dwayne, enough on reputation management. What do we have next?
All right, let's move on to some schema stuff. Now, this is obviously we're going to get geeky. It's not quite as sexy as managing reviews and connecting with customers and whatnot. But some people like to stay behind the scenes. They like to be the kingmaker in the background, and that's what schema markup is. It's a kingmaker. It's one of today's most important opportunities, and if you're not embracing it, you are missing a big opportunity. Schema is supported by the major engines, allows a business in a trustworthy way to identify the elements within their content in a consistent manner, in a way easily found, understood, and trusted by the engines. And to employ markup, You just make it, when you employ markup, you make it easier for the engine to use your data in rich ways for consumers, which generate more and deeper engagements. And markup is a growing trust signal with the engines. And while it does take some work, the benefits far outweigh the effort. Now, if we take a look at this example, Schema's library, first off, it contains hundreds of options to identify items and objects discreetly. Safe to say that there's a markup item for pretty much anything and everything a local business can identify at this point. And if it does not actually exist, and I mean you've done your research, you've done deep, and you've found out that no, in fact, there is no object for what I want, submit a request for it. Schema, the engines watch the website, they look at those suggestions coming in, and as a volume builds on those suggestions, they can take an action on it. And so it's these items then, when marked up, that get pulled forward into the search results. In this example, their hours of operation are clearly identified, making changes easy to translate into the map pack and mobile results. This markup also makes data available for rich elements like the answer box or the featured snippet, which further extends data into areas such as voice search. If you use them, you're basically laying out a welcome mat, opening your door and offering a lovely afternoon tea and snacks to the search engines. They'll be happy to stop by and tell others just how nice and easy you made their visit. The truth is, they don't really care how nice your proverbial house is. What they care about is, hey, is this a tea parlor? Are you actually offering afternoon tea? And is this a gluten-free menu? That's really what these guys are looking at.
All right, Dwayne. Now that we're done sipping our tea, what do we have next?
All right, we're going to move into some real hardcore stuff here, goal-based metrics. And there's nothing worse than chasing meaningless metrics, and yet so many times we end up seeking data on metrics that are visually appealing. They make for a nice graph in a meeting, but they tell little of the underlying story of the health of a business or a campaign. Goal-based metrics should be a focus for every company as they guide the conversation to points that impact the bottom line.
So, Dwayne, I want to start with a real simple example here, okay? For those of you that know me, and I know there's a few people on the line today that we've transacted before, I'm kind of known as a food influencer. It means I light up restaurant tables, annoy all my fellow diners, take pictures of food and share them online. Basically my social profile networks look all like this, right? Restaurants and agencies that work with restaurants invite me to come eat in hopes that I'm going to share positive things about their brand with my followers to help boost awareness for their brands, right? I'm happy to do it, but really, honestly, like, what's the value of a like, right? You can see I got 2,533 likes here, right? But I'll tell you where we're going. You know what? Likes are great. Comments are even better. Shares are even better. But you know what's freaking awesome, Dwayne? Conversions.
Yep.
Okay,
Exactly.
you need to have a call to action. You need to know where your likes are coming from. You need to know what the goal is for having those influencers come in. You need to know what you're doing with this share that you're building. If you're building these giant social profiles, what are you doing? I promoted this webinar on my Instagram page. You can see I drove 60 clicks to the registration page, right? And we can go and look later how many people then joined us today. I actually don't care how many people liked it. I only care about the people that clicked it. And so my content is driven around what kind of clicks can I get? What kind of actions can they take? And that's really a small way of talking about where we're going in goal-based metrics.
Yeah, and as we look at these things, the customer journey becomes, I think, a very important part of this. And it's a little more difficult to identify discrete metrics around the customer journey at the macro level. But, when you identify the customer journey, you uncover individual areas you can identify and create discrete metrics around. And these will always be unique. Almost every step, there are actions that you want a customer to take. And by creating action-focused metrics for each step, you can clearly uncover why abandonment happens, or where friction can be reduced to drive positive completions or actions. And this could be engaging in Q&A before the sale. It could be sharing to ask friends for input, or social sharing after the purchase. What's important here is that you're identifying specific areas that you will track and then take an action on. That may be that you're going to join the social conversation, or you're going to watch it to see what opportunities come up. And if there are social conversations happening, You can see who the conversation is being shared with, what's being discussed, and what the end result of that conversation looks like. You gain competitive insights here too, as people tend to suggest alternative options to their friends and family who are asking these questions on social media. And this doesn't represent a loss, but a win, as it helps you determine how to position your product moving forward so that you can always win in future comparisons.
So Dwayne, I like to give examples here. It helps, I think, bring context to the conversation, right? Here's a small one I want everybody to think about. Think about how great you would look to your customers if you could give them strategic insights that help grow their business. You know, what effect is that going to have on your business? They're going to want to keep paying you to do your job. So here's an example, okay? Let's say you had the power to tell your customer that they get the most amount of phone calls during the 11 a.m. hour. What's the effect of that? Well, this is actually some data from a customer I used to work with when I was in agency. It was a restaurant here in New York City, and I remember calling and saying, "Hey, Sarah, it's Rev. I was looking at some data today, and I realized that the 11 o'clock hour is when you're getting your highest calls." I said, "What's happening in the restaurant at 11 in the morning?" Well, she gave me the answer you'd think she gave me. You know, we're polishing silverware, we're doing table settings, we're, prepping for lunch and dinner. And I said, "Is anybody really like near the phone?" And she said, "No, why?" And I was like, "I think people are calling to make lunch reservations. You might want to staff that phone and just see what happens, right?" Well, look, the short end to a long story is that she saw a 10% increase in reservations just by having somebody pay attention to the phone during that hour. Now, had I not had access to analytics, had I not taken a look at them, and had I not been able to make that strategic suggestion to her, she would have been losing out on business. Now, when I call Sarah to renew services, right, she's going to take into effect this positive effect that I had on her business, right? She would not have had that business if I had not done this for her. How do you feel about another example, Dwayne?
I am on board. I love it.
Okay, so here's another one. Let's say you have deep analytics into Facebook, and as an agency, right, you are offering Facebook ads. Facebook ads are super hot. They're almost as hot as chatbots and Bitcoin, but they are a hot service that agencies are offering. Everybody wants to get in on the Facebook ad business. So let's say you're working with a business and you can see from analytics that they index higher with females on certain days of the week and index higher with males on other days of the week. That allows you to go in and think about strategically when you're placing ads. Oh, maybe on the days that we index high for females, we target males. Maybe on the days that we index high for males, we target females. Or what if you know that you index high on mobile on the weekends and high on desktop on the weekdays? All of these types of insights allow you to do better work and give better strategy to your customers, right? These are the types of things that we're talking about in terms of, analytics that matter, goal-based metrics. If you can look at these numbers and you can provide insights to your customers that they wouldn't be able to figure out on their own, and you're not just auto-populating some report that they get in their inbox so you don't have to call them once a month, right? You're going to lose that customer. You need to be able to go in and get metrics that help you strategize their business and grow. Dwayne, that's what we got today.
It's really awesome. It's really interesting to see this, right? Because so many times I see businesses, whether you're a service provider, direct to consumer, or you're an agency, and the challenge and the failure point is getting into a rut where you are literally just going into the analytics package that you have, whether it's Google Analytics or whatever, and pulling out standardized points of data. And I think, the couple examples here that Rev called out, these are really important data metrics. And ultimately, every piece of information that a business generates can be used to track a trend and help that business understand whether it's A, meaningful to the bottom line of the business, B, in what way is it meaningful, and C, how can they extract more value from that object? And, your 11 a.m. restaurant get on the phone example is perfect for that. And how many businesses miss out on little things like that? So that's huge. So just a quick recap here, guys. We're going to move over to Q&A shortly. The 5 points of what you guys need to be focusing on in 2018, digital knowledge management, critical area to start getting this right. Trust is yours to manage or lose. Developing of an action plan for voice search. That's going to come from a lot of point number 1. And number 3, schema markup, foundational for all this stuff. Reputation management, you've got to get in there, you got to roll up your sleeves, you've got to manage this stuff actively. And create goal-based metrics around all of these points of data and everything else that you can think to track. Better to have more metrics starting off and then weed out the ones over time that don't have a direct impact on your bottom line than to start with fewer metrics and miss opportunities.
All right, great. Thank you, Rev, Dwayne. Appreciate all the time you guys spent today. This was really good.
Totally psyched to be here, totally excited, and we totally appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity. Sorry, Joe. The last thing I'll say is, honestly, if you guys have any questions, our email is on the screen, our Twitter and Instagram handles are on the screen. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Dwayne. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We're here to help you.
If you want to be connected through LSA, you can email us at webinars@thelsa.org. Also, if you want more information on the upcoming webinars or for access to past webinars, you can visit www.thelsa.org/webinars. So with that, thanks everybody and have a great day.